Hey, what's up YouTube? Marty from Team Peace and Pass, and we're going to be doing a Ciel and Diana, our new champions for Distorted Reflection overview, kind of giving some insight into a little bit of the deck, some of the cards that are available that are coming in the structure deck, as well as some other things that you want to consider playing. In this video, we're also going to be doing a giveaway, which I'll give some details on that as well in the video, so stay tuned for that. But let's go ahead and get started. So let's look at Ciel. His level 1 on enter, you get to Surveil Possessions Mastery. So it's just like Kong Ming's Mastery, where it can't be interacted or anything, it just exists on the board. Basically, depending on the amount of omens you have, you either get additional +1, +2, or +3 attack, and then once you have 5 or more, you get to draw a card into memory. Now, how do you gain omens? Well, as an inherited effect, allows you at the beginning of your end phase to banish a card from your graveyard and put an omen counter on it. So as you're utilizing cards, drawing, discarding, creatures are dying, things like that, you're able to banish those, and then you can, and there's other cards that either let you get benefits from what you have banished or even add them back. So taking a look at a couple of options to maybe consider playing: Hasty Messenger, Creative Shock. Flame Sorcel is basically a little bit different of a Creative Shock. It's a 2-speed fast spell, and then depending basically if what you discard matches what you have banished for an omen, you get to draw another. So it's basically a draw 2, discard 1 in most scenarios for that as well. Cremation Ritual to be able to draw more, send an ally to grave, and then you get to banish it. Or even Sentinel, starting off the game where maybe you drop this as a 3-drop, you discard a floating memory, and then you can just freely level up on here. So some good fire options if you're sticking with this route. There is a water card in here that we'll cover just because it's something that triggers omens, and I wanted to kind of go over that as well. But other fire cards to consider: Furnace Drone, great option, especially with Carter. You play this as a 3/4, you get to attack, sacrifice it with Carter. Now you get to deal 3, and then you get to cleave for 4, and you got the draw. So there's some definite benefits to having a taunt 3/4 for 3 on board. Blaze Bearer is also another taunt option. Smolder Spite, basically it's just your fire element sources can't be prevented. Blazing Charge is just a 2-drop 5 attack card. You do take extra damage, but that's something that, if you're a healthier thing being a guardian. So you can also play the Cinder Keeper, Young Hair, and Red Hair route if you're playing a more aggressive deck as well. And we did get a new human unique fire ally revealed as well in March Hair, so that's something that you can definitely consider playing as well. This triggers more into the Kindle aspect of cards, which I did not post on here, but if you're planning on playing that, then you can definitely toss that in as well. Let's look at Ciel level 2. So on enter, for each omen discarded, each omen you have, you discard a card from your hand or memory and then draw a card into memory. These trigger separate instances. So let me give you an example of what that will look like. So if you bring him into play and you have 3 cards banished, they're marked with the omen counters that I put on there. You have Heavy Swing, Cremation Ritual, and Creative Shock. Well, after you leveled up, let's say you have a Fast Cure in hand. Well, you can discard the Fast Cure and draw a card in memory, and let's say you drew a reprogram. You can do this in 3 different instances, which will let you potentially get 3 floating memory into the graveyard plus that additional draw. You got to cycle through 3 different cards of your deck and allow you to be able to freely potentially level up or discard some of the other stuff to fuel your omen counters and things like that. One other thing to look at is Ciel's lineage release ability. You can activate only if you have 6 or more omens. You get to activate one of them. So, for example, the Cremation Ritual that is currently banished. If your opponent's attacking something during their turn, you can actually freely Cremation Ritual it, sacrifice it, and then draw those 2 additional cards. You can technically do it with some of your attack cards, but you're not attacking during your opponent's turn, so you can always just banish it to be able to play it and then swing for damage as well. That's definitely something to consider for this. Looking at some of his regalia, you have Grand Aguilé. This is going to give you, it's a 1/2, but it gets additional attack if you have 2 allies that are banished as omens. You have the Mask. This costs 6 to draw a card in memory, but it decreases as you're building your omens. And so basically, it's like a backup charger. It can cost nothing to do, but it can cost up to 6. So you usually probably will wait till you have it costs anywhere between 1 to 3 before you're actually utilizing this. The armoire basically lets you return one of your omens from your hand and then banish another card as well. So, for example, if you played a heavy swing, you got to swing for 6, you banish it as an omen, you can turn around and add that back and swing for another 6 damage. And then also you have the Umbra. Since he is a Guardian Umbra, if you have 10 or greater cost in your omens, so for example, 2 heavy swings is 12. This is a 4/3 weapon. So it's very strong, and most of the time this deck just feels really aggressive to where maybe you're not utilizing level 3 at all, but that's definitely an option for kind of the later game. And then Condemned Trinket. So banish a card from your graveyard and put an omen counter on it, paying for 3, like that backup charger cost. This matters when we go into his level 3, which basically is whenever an omen counter is put on a card that's in your banishment, you get to deal 2 damage to anything. So you can spot removal things if you need to, get rid of those fairies that have stealth, get rid of, a Shimmer Cloak that doesn't have any buffs on it or things like that. Now, other than your inherited effect, there are some cards that allow you to cycle your omens and deal that damage. Chevalier lets you just swap around when she enters the field. This Revelant Taunt, basically when he dies, is a water option, so it's not going to obviously tailor to the fires, but when he dies, he just gets banished and puts an omen counter and starts ranking that up. Affliction lets you banish curses, which we'll cover on the next little slide piece of this. And then that Condemned Trinket that I talked about. So there are different options that allow you to banish cards and get omen counters on them and then start dealing that additional damage there. Sinister Stab and Umbra Sight are the 2 curses that will actually either be put under yours or your champion. Stab is basically if you have 5 or more, it goes under your opponent's lineage and it gets -3 health. But if you don't have that, then maybe you put it under your lineage, giving yourself -3 health, and then you can play the Reverse Affliction, banishing it, putting an omen, triggering the damage, and then you get your health back, and you got to swing for 4. Umbra Sights will obviously give you dealing that 2 additional damage to yourself and drawing an additional card, and you can remove that curse underneath it if you need to. But a couple of the other Umbra cards there is Sortier Vortex. So this card is when you have 3 or more omens, it costs 3 less. And then basically when your opponent plays a card at the same cost as what you have banished, you get to recover 1 and deal 1 damage. It's a unique Fantasia, so you can only have 1 in play. It might be something in the longer game style of Ciel that you might play, but most of the builds that I've been seeing so far is just being pretty aggressive, and then maybe just playing a couple Umbra cards if you end up going to level 3, or if you don't even at all. Oblivion lets you basically destroy something and then banish it. It costs 2 less if you have 5 or more. Baleful is an interesting card, so it costs 3 for his just as his bonus, and it deals X to everything except for your champion, and it's the lowest reserve cost among your omens. So initially at the beginning of the game, you're going to banish maybe a 2 and a 3, and then maybe like a heavy swing 6 or whatever. That way you're at 11, it triggers a lot of your stuff. But as you start going along the way, you have your Memoir, or you have your Chevalier and stuff like that can swap around the 2 and the 3 after you've utilized like all your draw stuff at the beginning. Banishing 4s and 5s and 6s, for example, and now you're dealing 4 to everything on the board instead at fast speed. And of course, Carter, the most exciting card to be able to play again, and you're not even playing as Diana. Obviously, it's a Ranger and Guardian bonus for the cleave, and then whenever something dies, you get to recover. So as you're playing these Umbra Sights and stuff, you get to swing across the big board. It's going to do that damage. Sacrificing an ally you control gets +2 attack, and if it was an automaton, get to draw a card. That's where Furnace Drone comes in. So you're able to maybe sacrifice that, deal 3 damage from its death effect, and then draw a card and cleave. So now let's get into our box giveaway. We're going to give away 1 box of Distorted Reflections to you guys, just for being basically part of the channel. We appreciate the slow growth that we're doing here, but there's a couple rules to it. So 250 subscribers by the release date of July 25th. So 11:59 p.m. July 25th is the cutoff. I will take a look at it right then. If we're at 250 subscribers, we're doing the giveaway. So in order to enter, you just have to be subscribed to our channel, like the video, and then comment which champion you're looking forward to playing, either Ciel or Diana, or maybe you're not looking forward to either one of those. Maybe you want to play Merlin again because you've seen some of the cards from Merlin and stuff like that. The winner will be announced on August Market Watch. We're going to be doing July here, probably in about a week or so for Market Watch. August we'll probably end up doing kind of in the middle-ish, the first week of August to mid-August, and we'll have that already shipped out before we announce that winner. So I know that it's only about 2 weeks or so to see if we can get there, but if we can, I definitely want to give you guys a box away just kind of as a thank you. So let's move on to Diana. Diana is our new ranger, basically, and it kind of fixes all the problems that guns and bullets had. So she gets, on enter, if you are distant, you get to materialize an Aether Wing card, which we'll go over, and then she has an inherited effective gain, range 1, no matter what level she's at. So backstep, be positioned in the new card, Undercurrent Vantage lets you glimpse through, and all of these cards give distant to your spirit. So you can do this during your opponent's end phase, level up, and then you get to bring an Aether Wing in, which will be either Seekers or Whisper that we have revealed so far. These come in the structure deck. So they both have Spell Shroud, which is nice because obviously that's the biggest problem that guns had, was interaction with like Fracture Eyes and some of these other things. So they can't be targeted by those spells. True Sight, obviously on the Seekers, and then the other one gets the Glimpse 1 plus X for the damage, and then you get to basically mill 1 card, mill a floating or something like that, kind of stack how you want to play, and that damage can really stack up. In testing, when me and our teammate Gavin played, he was able to actually glimpse like 14 cards from damage, and it was pretty insane for sure. So some of your Aether charges, you have a Glimpse 4, and then you get to put an Aether charge into memory. Deal 1 to something, floating memory, -3 health, draw a card in a memory, -3 attack, and then activate an Aether charge from your graveyard to kind of reoccur those guys back. So lots of options here. These are all the standard ones that just deal one damage, additional attack on your Aether Wings with these charges. So, giving an example of what it would look like, so you were distant, you were able to put in the Seeker's Aether Wing into play. Let's say at the beginning of a wreck, you decide to glimpse, you find Drown in Aether. Once that resolves, it gets put into the Aether Wing. And then before your recollection as well, you play Prudent Knock, drawing another card in a memory. Because you glimpsed, you got to, you saw 2 of these Aether Wings, so you put them both on top. So one got drawn into memory, and then the Prudent Knock drew the other one. Now it's your turn, and you decide, you know what, there's a couple allies on board that have swung, Shimmer Cloak or whatever on there, and you decide to get rid of both of them by playing these. You can play them at fast activation when you are the ranger, but for this instance, you just played them during your turn. Get rid of a couple allies. Because you're ranged, and all of those, you're going to be dealing 6 total damage on attack. Now, most of the time, you're probably put in the water one just to be able to glimpse and mill off a floating memory for easier level up and things like that. But there's definitely some options that you can alternate and take a look at. Water cards that you can play. Frostborn Paladin's obviously just a staple in water decks that makes everything really strong. We have an Aether Charge with floating memory and a few other things. Obviously, you can play cards like Fracture Eyes. Snow Fairy might be something that you actually play, considering that like taunts and intercepts are going to be a big problem, especially when you're trying to swing for damage. So maybe you consider playing this. And then obviously Lost in Thought, but that's most likely probably going to get banned when DTR comes out. So if it's not, then you definitely have that to utilize for the time being. Other cards that are specific to Ranger that you can consider: Waterlog Ranger, the whole deluge mechanic of everything. Seaside Rangefinder gives something distant, just kind of like Seaside Ringleader, but without the draw, unfortunately. If it would have had the draw, it would have been much better. Retreat, Deluge again, preventing combat. Desperate Dive to prevent damage. Dahlia, all the water cards in graveyard being able to swing really big. And then Archer, banishing a floating, get a draw and make him distant, being a 2-drop 4/2, swinging for damage. That's definitely something strong to consider as well. Moving on to level 2, she lets you load up 2 Aether charge cards from your hand or memory into an Aether Wing you control, and then you get to draw a card, so they self-replace. She also gets the inherited range 1 ability as well. So the one thing to keep in mind with this is it doesn't matter what card it is, so you can use the Astra ones, which we'll go over a little bit more in depth here momentarily, but you can load those up, dealing additional damage, drawing cards. Some of the regalia that she gets, if you're distant, you get the glimpse 4, and otherwise you just standard glimpse 2. The ranger boots is very strong. A hindered, draw 1, and then you can make her distant, and then the ribbon allows you to load an aether charge from grave. But let's take a look at level 3. So when she's distant, you get to negate something that targets her unless they pay 2, or if it's a combat, they have to pay 2 to swing in that. So you can definitely, with like the ranger boots, your opponent's getting ready to attack you, they put all their cards down, you can just change, pop it in, make this distant, and then prevent the combat there. Or you can just glimpse 2, which glimpsing 2 and all the glimpse mechanics of this is very crucial for your higher Astra cards. You also have your weapon that's a 2/3, it's a glimpse 3, and then basically all your aether charges cards in the intent gang summon a shard, which those shards let you essentially sacrifice to glimpse as well. So now let's look at some of the Astra ones. The aether calling of these is a new mechanic. So when you're glimpsing, if you can aether call these into your weapon. So if you glimpse 4, you see 2 or 3 of these, you can load them up. And there's 3 different ones that you can play. This one lets you draw a card and then load it. This one basically makes it unblockable and loading it. And then this one lets you glimpse X, then load it. So you can take a look at as many cards as you want to. All of these deal 2 damage instead of 1. A couple other Astra cards that are being released. This one is basically for every aether charge in the intent, you get to create a copy for the extra damage. And then Poised lets you negate a card and it goes back to their memory, but then you get to draw a card into your memory, so it self-replaces as well. And then you become distant, triggering off your glimpse or anything like that you need to. So now, also being Astra, I'm just going to put them all on the screen. You can look at playing some of the Astra cards that exist with Star Calling. It doesn't interfere with Aether Calling. You just do the Aether Calling first, then the Star Calling second in the same glimpse. So you can play Cosmic Bolts if you want to. Most people probably will play something like Comet Fall, dealing 3 to units, or the Meteor Strike and things like that. But you can play Astra Sight to draw a card and glimpse as well. So there's definitely some options to consider with the Astra lineup as well. But that's going to do it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Obviously, we want to give away one of those boxes of DTR, so as long as you do all 3 of those on this video, we get to 250 subscribers by DTR release, we're going to give a box away. Thanks so much, and as always, peace.